From diplomacy to how this is all unfolding on the ground, ABC News contributor and retired Colonel Steve Ganyard joins us now. And Steve, Russian President Vladimir Putin put Russia's nuclear forces on a state of heightened alert, as you know, this weekend. Just a few hours ago, President Biden said that Americans should not be worried about the threat of nuclear war. But what kind of message is Putin sending with this move? Is this a bluff?
I sure hope so, Lindsay. But, you know, he has tried to bluff us before, and there are those of us, as you and I know, that thought it was a bluff, and so maybe now we don't take it as a bluff. Anytime anybody rattles the nuclear saber, it's designed to induce fear. And fear, in this case, signals that Mr. Putin feels like he is losing. The interesting thing about the language here, not to get too far in the weeds, but the way that they wrote the language, it doesn't seem applicable to any previous language that the Russians have used. You know, everybody in the State Department and at the Pentagon wants to see language they understand, and so there's sort of a lingua franca of diplomacy. And what Putin said was like, it just doesn't make sense. There's no way to correlate that to what he actually did. So probably there just to create fear, and we should probably take it seriously in that sense that he feels that trapped and that far behind.
And new satellite images reveal the Russian military convoy that left southern Belarus toward Kyiv stretches on for miles. What does that tell you?
It tells us that they've sort of been pulling back today and that they are looking to reinforce and then commit more of their troops. So about 2/3 of their troops have been committed. That means inside of Ukraine. But what they really need to do now is bring those troops to bear. And so this is obviously quite worrying because that much armor and that many troops are going to really test the Ukrainians in a way that they haven't been tested before. So tomorrow will be a very, very important day for the Ukrainian defense.
And we've been talking about this analogy of David versus Goliath. It seems like so far that slingshot being pretty effective. How do you think that the Ukraine has been able to put up such a resistance so far?
Yeah, well, it's a lot easier when you're defending your homeland and that you are righteous, and that's what the Ukrainians are here. And the Russians are the aggressors, and they're not holding the moral high ground. So something like that is as Napoleon would say, the moral is to the physical, like 3 to 1. And so that ability for the Ukrainians to say this is ours, this is our homeland that we're defending, that helps. But it also helps that NATO is pumping in a whole bunch of military material that will be useful. So anti-tank weapons, anti-aircraft weapons, small arms, ammo, all the things that the Ukrainians would need is coming in. Hopefully it's fast enough and it's in time.
This morning, a senior Defense Department official said that they have seen no indication that Belarusian forces are prepared to join Russia. But according to an internal State Department report, the president of Belarus seems to be getting ready for a more active role. Why does this conflict matter to Belarus, and how significant would it be if that country got heavily involved?
Yeah, Lindsay, this is really interesting. When nobody was looking, Mr. Putin has basically turned Belarus into a vassal state, just what he wants to do with Ukraine. So the Belarusians are now going to do what Mr. Putin wants, and that is to change their constitution and to say, sure, we want nuclear weapons on our soil. So think about that. We will now, Mr. Putin will now have the ability to put nuclear weapons on the border of a major NATO ally, namely Poland. That's like if he put nuclear weapons in Cuba. How it would be to the U.S. So the leadership in Belarus has become Mr. Putin's puppet. And so anything that goes on from now on is only at Putin's direction.
And it's also important to note who is doing the fighting for Russia. Explain to us who's taking up the arms there and why that matters for Putin and the story that he's trying to sell his people.
Yeah, one of the interesting news releases, press releases we saw out of the Russian Ministry of Defense today was the first headline was, these are not conscripts, these are professional military, Russian military fighting. That's important because about a third, about 260,000 troops within Putin's military are conscripts, meaning that they're draftees, meaning that the mothers of Russia are giving Mr. Putin their sons and daughters. And so the idea here is that if he commits those conscripts, those draftees, to combat, and these children start coming home in body bags, he loses support not only internationally, but he loses it at home. And it's bad enough that the sanctions and the sanctioning of the central bank are beginning to bite, and we're seeing the ruble tank. And in this case, he can't afford to lose the mothers of Russia. And so he's keeping the conscripts out and putting the professional military in as a way to maintain support at home.
Steve Ganyard, always appreciate you joining us on the show.
Thanks, Linsey.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.